Good evening, folks. It's 7:02. We'll call the meeting to order, and we'll begin, all members are present. We'll begin with transmitting of the Treasury warrants 11, 11A, 12, and 12A. Do we have a motion?
Motion so moved. Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor? It's unanimous. We have no minutes to approve this evening, so we'll move directly to our 7 o'clock appointment, which is with the Mass Department of Transportation regarding a public hearing for the Glen Road, Middlesex Ave, Wildwood Street intersection improvement project. In attendance this evening, we have from Mass DOT, German Nieto, who's the project manager, Frank Szynski of District 4, and Jerry Doherty, relative to rights of way. DPW Superintendent for the Town of Wilmington, Don Honorside, is present, and the town's consultants, Green International Affiliates, Senior Associate Eric Atkins, and Staff Engineer Wing Wong. So, good evening, gentlemen. We'll let you start the public meeting.
Sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Germán Nieto. I am the project manager for the project to be presented this evening. I am assigned to the project management section, which is located at the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division, headquarters in Boston. I was directed by Chief Engineer Thomas Broderick to conduct tonight's hearing. Once the hearing is completed this evening, the attendance sheet will become a part of the public record for the hearing. So, if you would like your attendance at this hearing to be part of the public record, please sign in on the sheet located on the table next to the door. Handouts containing details regarding this project also are next to the sign-in sheet. First, I would like to introduce the members of the hearing panel. Jerry Doherty from our Railway Bureau.
Good evening.
Eric Atkins from Green International Affiliates, Inc. Wing Wong from Green International Affiliates, Inc. Joe Sakelos from Arlington Typing and Mailing, Arlington, Massachusetts, will be making a verbatim transcript of tonight's hearing. The notice of the public hearing appeared in the Boston Globe newspaper on September 10 and September 17, 2012, and in the Wilmington Advocate newspaper on September 13 and September 20, 2012. Purpose of the hearing. A copy of this notice is included in the handout and will be attached in the final hearing transcript. Page 2 of the handout explains the purpose of the hearing, which gives us an opportunity to make a formal presentation of the proposed project and, at the same time, allows us to record your input regarding the project. Construction funding for this project is currently identified as federal aid with Federal Highway Administration funding 80% of the total construction cost. Mass DOT funds the remaining 20%. This project must be programmed in the statewide transportation improvement project in the appropriate federal fiscal year in order for Mass DOT to solicit bids for eventual construction. The total estimated cost of the project is $850,000. This does not include any right-of-way acquisition costs. The design is expected to be completed in the fall of 2015. Construction is expected to be completed within 1 year from the notice to proceed. At this time, I would like to ask Jerry Doherty to explain the right-of-way procedure.
Thank you and good evening.
Excuse me, Mr. Doherty, I apologize for interrupting, and I let Mr. Nieto do the hard work in explaining what the public process was all about.
It will become. It will become.
Right, understood, and I do apologize for interrupting. I just wanted to give folks in the audience just a quick opportunity to ask any questions about the procedure. What we're doing this evening in conducting this public hearing is hearing about the design to this point, and a lot of what Mr. Nieto just recited was formalities that needs to be included in the record. So I just wanted to make sure folks understood you will have the opportunity to ask questions after the presentation. Are there any questions about that? Okay, and I also neglected, and I will get to that question in the back, also neglected, I didn't see Representative Maselli there, who's with us this evening as well. Mr. Tide, a question?
Just wondering if we could get him a mic or something. I have no idea what he said.
Okay, why don't we do this? Mr. Doherty, why don't I let you take over? If you could bear in mind that some folks in the back may need to hear some volume, and if we have any problems going forward, we'll correct that.
Very
Okay.
good.
Thank you, and I apologize for interrupting.
Not a problem.
Okay, you go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, thank you. When the Commonwealth, acting through its Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division, indicated it would accept this $850,000 project for funding under our federal aid program, your town accepted certain responsibilities. One of those responsibilities is to acquire all the necessary rights in private and public lands for the design, construction, and implementation of the project. My function is to review and recommend procedures that your town will utilize in acquiring these rights. The procedures must comply with both federal and state regulations. The current design plans indicate that 7 temporary easements will be required. Your town may acquire the needed rights through a combination of donation, eminent domain, deed grants, permits, or right of entries. Frequently, local municipalities will appeal for donation. The donation will minimize the acquisition costs for your community. However, the donation and right of entries are not required, and property owners are entitled to an appraisal and due compensation. This project cannot be advertised until new proposed right-of-way is secured and the Right-of-Way Bureau issues a right-of-way certificate. Affected property owners' rights are protected under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 79, and because this project is receiving federal funds, the property owner's rights are further defined under Title III of the Real Property Act of 1970, as amended. I'll be happy to answer any questions during the general session, and I'll be here after the meeting to answer any further questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. At this time, I would like to ask Eric Atkins from Green International Affiliates. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ron. Good, my name is Eric Atkins with Green International Affiliates. We're the design consultant for the town on this project. We've been working on this project since 2004. Wing Wong from our office is our traffic engineer who is responsible for the traffic design for this project. I'll start off, and I'm not sure how many folks can see from the back here, but on the screen we have a depiction of where the project is located. I'm sure you all know if you're here where it is located, but as a matter of course, it's located right in this location here, and we have a little blow-up detail with Middlesex Avenue, Route 62, Glen Road, and Wildwood Street. As, again, many of you probably know, having lived there from talking with a few of you folks earlier today, Route 62 is a 2-lane urban minor arterial. It has traffic in each direction, both in the north and south direction, with a 35-mile-an-hour posted speed limit. Glen Road and Wildwood Street intersect Route 62 at roughly 90-degree angles, and each of those are 2-lane urban collectors. Both of those roads also have a posted speed limit of 25 miles an hour. As many of you know, there's an existing triangular island which is in the middle of the intersection for Glen Road, and two-way traffic splits off at this island depending on which direction on Route 62 you'd like to travel. There's also within that island a memorial stone and flagpole, and there are sidewalks along the, I guess you could call it the southern or eastern side of Route 62 here, and on this portion here, and there's a piece of sidewalk on Glen Road in this section. This is what this plan depicts here on this board is an existing conditions plan of the survey that we had done at the time that we were basing our geometric design on. North is in this direction here, up to the right. Route 62 runs left to right on the board. Glen Road is at the top, running up and down, and Wildwood is in this location here. And this is the triangular island I was referring to. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to have Wayne discuss a little bit about the existing traffic operations and some of the basis of our design.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Based on the traffic data we collected for this project, Route 62 is very heavily traveled with over 20,000 vehicles a day. Glen Road is also busy. It's got almost 10,000 vehicles a day, and Wildwood carries about 3,500. During the morning rush hour, Glen Road has more traffic than the PM rush hour. The opposite is true for Wildwood because the traffic pattern reverses. Apparently, a lot of people do come from Glen Road in the morning, but then the afternoon, people coming back from Wildwood. As Eric mentioned too earlier with the Triangular Island, two-way traffic is allowed on either side of the island. So if you were on 62 trying to take a left or a right, you both have to yield to any vehicles coming from Glen Road trying to take that left. So in addition to your typical intersection conflict points, there's already another major conflict point created right here between those three directions of travel. Furthermore, this Triangular Island also splits the traffic on Glen Road, which creates an askew angle approaching to Route 62, and that limits the visibility for drivers. I'm sure many of you who drove through the intersection, you have to turn your head, kind of hard to look for the opposing traffic on Route 62. And then there's another issue that makes it turning out of Glen Road even worse is that the wide pavement on Route 62. So anybody who's on 62 wants to take a left onto Glen Road or take a left onto Wildwood, any through vehicles, you can just bypass them on the shoulder. So essentially, if you're on a side road, you could be looking at more than one lane of opposing traffic at a time. So it really makes it dangerous if you think you can go and all of a sudden there's another through vehicle that just zooms by any turning vehicles. And lastly, the heavy traffic, as discussed already on 62, really creates long delays if you're sitting on the side roads, and it forces drivers, especially during the rush hours, to kind of jump into 62 without the adequate gap. So based on all these geometric deficiencies and traffic operation deficiencies, it's no surprise that when we studied this intersection, we found that there were many accidents that occur at this intersection. We calculated the crash rate for this location, which is based on millions of entering vehicles. It's more than twice the state average. And that sort of confirms the deficient geometry that exists today. So for now, I will turn it back to Eric to talk about our proposed design objectives and the proposed design.
Thanks. So, based on what we know of the existing conditions, the traffic data we have, the crash analysis we do, the survey we have, and speaking with the town, and I think we had some meetings a few years ago, we identified a few design objectives. What do we want to do here? Obviously, I think the first one is improve the safety, right? That's the first and utmost goal that we have on this project. We want to improve the overall traffic operation. Obviously, Route 62 works just fine today, but you know, if you need to come down Glen Road or Wildwood Street, I don't think you'd have that same opinion. I think that's those are two tough roads to enter and also exit out of during the peak flow. So we want to improve the traffic operations through here. We want to improve the safety. We want to do this and try to avoid you know, right-of-way impacts, takings from people. We want to minimize or avoid those. We want to minimize any impacts to resource areas, which we don't really have in this project in terms of your wetlands, but we do in terms of the monument and the flagpole. And we also have many, many nice mature trees along this stretch of roadway, which we do not want to disturb if we can avoid it. We want to improve access to that historic monument. I don't think too many folks feel pretty comfortable walking up to that during peak traffic to read what that says or to look at the flagpole. We want to improve access to that. We also want to improve potentially the aesthetics of this intersection as well. And we want to improve the sidewalk connections for ADA pedestrian accessibility by connecting that link there that's missing on Glen Road, where that sidewalk just terminates at about this location. And we want to improve access, pedestrian access across the roadway. And we also want to improve bicycle accommodations within this intersection as well. So those are some of our design objectives. So what you see on this board here, where we flip this board over, is kind of a colorized version of our proposed design as it stands at the 25% design stage, which is still a fairly early stage of the design. The first and foremost thing we're proposing to do is to convert the Glen Road intersection to your conventional three-legged intersection. And to do that, we need to remove that traffic island, which is right, you can see the outline, some of you may be able to see it right there of that traffic island. That's where it is today, right here. We want to convert this into a more conventional three-legged intersection, make it a more conventional approach for drivers. You have your drivers that drive this all the time, and they're pretty comfortable. They know what's going on. They know what to expect. They know what to do, when to stop, when not to stop. People who come through this for the first time, I don't think are so sure what to do, and that can create some issues. So we want to convert this to a more conventional standard approach. We also want to signalize this intersection to help improve the traffic operations and the safety of this intersection at Glen Road, and that's what the S stands for, by the way, the two big S's here, are depicting the signalized intersection for Glen Road, but also for Wildwood Street, so the users of Wildwood and Glen Road can have improved operations and efficiency onto Route 62. We want to add some dedicated turn lanes for Route 62 so that people know when they want to take a left onto Glen Road or they want to take a left onto Wildwood, they know where they need to be, and the through traffic knows where they need to be. So we're proposing to add an actual dedicated right turn lane from Route 62 onto Glen Road. We have two dedicated left, one left and one right dedicated turn lane for Glen Road for each direction of traffic. We also have a dedicated left turn lane for the traffic that wants to turn left onto Wildwood Street, and a left turn lane for the traffic heading in the northbound direction and want to turn left onto Glen Road. So we give them a safe pocket where they can stand and wait to take their turn to turn left onto either one of those roadways. We're also providing, as I mentioned earlier, ADA compliant sidewalks within the project limits, including ramps, pedestrian signals, and crosswalks. So now you have a dedicated signalized pedestrian crossing Route 62. So if you're walking through here with your dog or your kids and you want to cross the street up to this side of the roadway, you're now able to do that by pushing the pedestrian button. You'll get the light, you'll have an exclusive phase. You can now cross the street and you can cross over here and then continue up Glen Road if you so choose. So those are the major design elements of the proposed design. As I mentioned, we have bicycle accommodations by the means of providing a 4-foot shoulder in this area, a marked shoulder for bicycles that provides them a safe area to be. Cars know where they should be, bicycles know where they should be. Right now, if you recall, there's not a whole lot of striping out there. It's a pretty wide expanse of pavement. We're working with the town, and we will continue to work with the town as the design progresses to identify a new location for the historic flagpole and monument as well. That makes that more accessible to people and more inviting to see. The project also is going to include emergency preemption for emergency responders so that they can, when they come through in the event of emergency, they can activate the signals so they can get through. And as I mentioned earlier, we want to minimize right-of-way impacts, and there are no permanent right-of-way impacts associated with this design, meaning that the only, if you want to call them that, impacts we have are temporary slope rights or construction easements so that the contractor can go and do the building improvements, the sidewalk, whatever it may be. But in the end, it's essentially, there are no permanent takings or easements as part of this project. And of course, we have what we feel to be some aesthetic improvements as well, and safety, certainly safety improvements with the addition of the sidewalks, the crosswalks, and the signalized intersection as well. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Wing. He can discuss a little bit real quick about the traffic simulations that we use to develop the design of the traffic signals.
Okay, this is a program we call Sim Traffic. Basically, this is the program we use to do the traffic analysis and traffic simulation. What you have here is basically just an aerial background beneath our project. You have Glen Road that's coming in, you have Route 62, and then you have Wildwood. This orientation is slightly different than what you see on the plan. Basically, true north is straight up on this view, as opposed to that plan. What we have here is just a rough shape of the island that you see out there today. Two-way traffic is on either side of that island. We have created some left turn pockets here, which obviously they don't exist today, but in order to model the existing conditions accurately, which people do kind of sit here and then through vehicles sort of bypass them. So we kind of have that model in there. We also have the right turn pocket that's out there today that, again, it's not striped, it's not dedicated, but it is there. It is wide, so if people from 62, they can have an easier time to turn into Glen Road. Now, the vehicle colors themselves, if it's yellow, basically try to take a right. If it's a white color, it's trying to make a through movement. And any cyan color, blue color, they're trying to take a left. And any greens are basically just exiting our simulation network. So I'll just run this. This is existing conditions during the AM rush hour. So I'll speed up a little bit. Basically, you see the two vehicles, they sort of stay on the left side of the island and then try to wait for a acceptable gap to try to merge into 62, and you have vehicles trying to take that right turn out of Glen Road that's trying to go on the right side of the island. And you see traffic on 62, which gets pretty heavy. And then Glen Road, you see a backup in the morning hour.
What you notice, that was again the morning, and what you'll notice is the queuing on Glen Road, but very few, well, now this is the PM, but the model we had up before showed very little queuing on Wildwood, which was pretty representative of what we saw. Part of building these models, you can actually program in driver aggressiveness and driver behavior, and you try to make some assumptions, and we correlated this to what we observed in the field. We felt this fairly well matched what we were seeing in the field in terms of how drivers were behaving at the intersection, but this is not a standard intersection, so it's a little tricky to model effectively.
So this is the PM rush hour that you see here. Again, same Wildwood's here, Glen Road, and then Route 62 is continue up and down your screen. What you're going to notice here is you're going to have more vehicles queuing up on Wildwood, and that's because the traffic pattern reverses, as I mentioned before. Many of you have probably already known. And there's a lot less traffic volume on Glen Road, so you're not going to see the same backloop you see in the morning, but you will do so on Wildwood. So basically, same situation in the morning, heavy traffic on Route 62. You have cars try to bypass any left-turning vehicles on the side. The same conflict points that happen at the western end of the island. And then we'll see the long delay on Wildwood, especially if there's a left-turning car. You have to wait for the adequate gaps. Most of the vehicles do take a right turn from Wildwood, but once there is a left-turning car, that could queue up quite a bit.
So we use these existing conditions models to make sure we understand what's really happening and that the basic underlying parameters of our model, mainly the traffic volumes that we're using, are accurate and that they reflect what's currently happening out there. And we use this model to kind of assimilate what we see in the field. It doesn't make sense is what the model shows. Does that make sense to what we see in the field? And then once we have that existing conditions model and we have a proposed design, we then build the proposed model now that we know that our baseline is correct or is unique.
So this is a proposed condition model. Orientation is the same as previous under the existing. The only difference is now the island is gone. This is more of a conventional intersection, just as this plan is showing. Wildwood is also going to be signalized as well. These lanes here now, they're actually going to be striped and dedicated and well-defined turn lanes along Route 62. The two left turn lanes here, as well as the right turn lane here. And that's also shown on this plan as well. Left turn lanes as well as the right turn lanes. And also the two turn lanes on Glen Road, as Eric discussed earlier, those are reflected in this model as well. The only difference in this model is now you see the signalized symbols, which just your standard traffic signal heads. So you will be able to see them operating just like they were in their real life. So what you see here, I can fast forward just slightly. Actually, I don't even have to. You can see the cars, the volumes on Glen Road is still heavy. However, once this does turn green, most of it can get clear. But the most important thing is they will be safe to do so as opposed to today. So it's 62 is still heavy, obviously going both ways. The traffic signal will also be actuated. What it means is that it will be smart enough to know that when there's no demand on a certain leg, it will not sit there and continue to produce green time when it's not needed. So if you're driving through here, say at 12 o'clock at night on Glen Road, you're not going to have to sit there for a couple of minutes and wait for the signal to turn green. These all will be actuated. We'll have vehicle detections, and it will know when you're actually there. During the rush hour, it will also know, obviously demand's going to be great, a lot longer, so it's going to extend the demand and green time. So this is the PM rush hour. So So what you see is the heavier traffic on Wildwood. Again, it's not going to be as bad as in the existing conditions because they will have a dedicated time in which they can clear, and again, doing it in a safe manner as well.
And you'll notice the light for Wildwood, as soon as that last car passed, back to what Wynn was talking about with the actuation, as soon as that last car had passed, the light then turns green back for Route 62, so there's no wasted time in terms of the green time.
Now, this intersection, unfortunately, due to the offset of Glenroe and Wildwood, which is not in the most ideal location for offset for traffic operation-wise, we do have to add in a few extra seconds to clear traffic that are between the two intersections. Obviously, we don't want to have traffic that's going to be right between intersections and start backing up on either approach. So we have to add a few extra seconds to that. And then we also have to provide time for the side streets. So what occurs is you could potentially see some queues on 62 during the PM rush hour. But they still will get the most cycle length because they have the highest demand. But it's just during sometimes they will have to unfortunately stop and wait for the traffic on the side streets to go. But this will still a much greater improvement in safety and traffic operations over the existing conditions. So I will now turn it back to Eric to go over a summary of
Okay, thank you. So that's probably as much traffic as you can handle. So we'll wrap it up. I just wanted to summarize some of what we talked about. In summary, this proposed design improves the overall intersection safety, improves the operation of the side roads at Glen Road and Wildwood. It does reduce the delay on those roads and it improves the safety of those approaches. It improves the pedestrian access throughout by connecting the sidewalk on Glen Road down here and extending the sidewalk to here to the church. And creates ADA compliant sidewalks in this stretch here as well. It also improves pedestrian safety by providing a signalized crosswalk at this location so you can cross back and forth between 62 and also across the front leg of Glen Road and Wildwood safely with an exclusive pedestrian phase. So that means if you push the button, you can be assured that all of the traffic must stop to allow you to cross the road. So you don't need to, leapfrog with all the cars. That the proposed design will provide a more accessible location for that monument. And the anticipated advertising date pursuant to receiving funding is currently the spring of 2016. So I think Ramon had mentioned that design is planned to be complete in 2015. So that would mean that the project would be ready to be advertised by 2016, pending funding authorization for the project. At this time, the approximate construction cost, I think Ramon had mentioned about $150,000, $190,000 in 2012 money. That's still fairly accurate in that range is the anticipated construction fund. And with that, if the board allows,
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Wayne. The plans presented tonight are not complete. The next step will be to review the comments received this evening, then amend and complete the plans for advertising and eventual construction. Before we open the hearing to you, I will explain the hearing procedure. First, as stated previously, the purpose of the hearing is to solicit your input regarding the project. As the plans are not yet complete, we may not be able to answer all of your questions or respond to all of your comments at this time. Next, we ask that anyone who wishes to have his or her comments entered into the official hearing transcript, please stand up, identify yourself by name and affiliation, whether you are an abutter, local official, or concerned citizen, and spell your last name. This is necessary in order for us to obtain a full verbatim transcript as required by law. Also, the last sheet of the handout is a mailing sheet. If you have any questions or comments which you would like to submit in writing, please use this sheet for that purpose. You may leave the sheet with me tonight, or you may mail into the department within 10 days of this date, and it will become part of the official record. Finally, it is normal procedure to ask elected officials to offer their comments first. Are there any federal, state, or local officials who would like to speak at this time?
before opening it up to the board, I note that State Senator Bruce Tarr has joined us. Before going to the board, do our representative or senator have any questions, and then we'll go to the board? Is that acceptable? Gentlemen?
Yeah, this project was put on in the Senate by Bruce Tarr in the bond issue at the time that we were debating. And then I'm on the Committee on Transportation. Came to the House, got support in the House, and it got support in the Committee on Transportation. So there's unanimous support in the delegation for this project. I was a bit taken aback this evening. I thought I knew the timetable pretty well. As far as that project being completed, which year have you selected? You know, what do you propose?
2015.
2015.
You have the schedule for the design schedule?
Is it? Is that what 2015?
Yes.
So that's the town's. Let me say this. If I can do, I see everybody's got the same look I had. If I can do anything to expedite the project along with the senator, obviously I'm going to. I'll be frank with you. 2015, and I'm not looking for debate here. 2015 is somewhat unacceptable. It is. We've got that project, and it's up to the Board of Selectmen, but I thought we'd be moving along at a more rapid rate than the one we're discussing this evening. But anything I can do relative, and I'll make the offer to the town, and Bruce and I work together on this, anything I can do relative to expediting the timetable or helping with the funding, if there's some part of that funding that's news to you tonight, obviously I'm there to do it. But I appreciate what you do. In fact, Department of Transportation is one of my favorite departments, it is. And, but gee, that timetable kind of threw me back a bit. And it may have been mentioned early on, but 2015, it's 3 years from now, yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you. Oh, by the way,
Senator.
for those of you who don't know, I'm Representative Jim Maselli, and I live here in Wilmington.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the members, and thank you to the folks from Mass DOT for coming out tonight. I would actually join with Representative Maselli in echoing the priority that we place on this project. And it is in fact true that in the most recently enacted bond bill, the transportation bond bill, I did place an amendment into the bond bill which Representative Maselli secured in the House to emphasize the fact that this is one of the most important projects that we're focusing on right now, both in terms of public safety and also in terms of traffic efficiency. And so I rise principally to underscore the message that this is a priority project and we'd like to see it initiated as soon as possible. But I do also want to say that I think it's important to receive the input that you'll receive tonight, both from the members of the board, from the DPW director, as well as from the public, so that everyone's ideas can be incorporated into the project, because it is absolutely critical that we do this right. I think it's important that the project does include some changes in geometry. I know that we're dealing with a very difficult geometry here, and I think it's important that we align those roads as closely as we can. I also think it's critical that the queuing be maximized for efficiency between the two areas of traffic signalization, because this is an area which very easily could cause tremendous backup and tremendous inefficiency and reduce the service level of these intersections rather than increase the service level of them. So I think it's critical that that be examined very carefully, and also that there be some latitude in the plan that once the signalization is completed, there'd be room for adjustment and fine-tuning, again, because of the importance of this area, both for public safety and for the efficiency of traffic flow. But the main point that I would carry to you tonight is that the legislative delegation does see this as a priority. We do want to see it undertaken as soon as possible in partnership with the town, in consultation with the community. But this is something that we've been talking about in town for a very long period of time. In fact, I think Mike Kyra probably had just started as town manager when this was first being discussed. And it would be nice to have it completed by his departure, but I don't know that that's going to happen. But it would be nice to be able to have him in retirement revisit this and to know that his role in this was fulfilled and that we did in fact complete it. So I know that there is some more conversation to happen The numbers that are presented in terms of cost are slightly different than those that I was aware of, but not by a large order of magnitude. And again, as Representative Maselli indicated, if there's a deficiency that's causing this to go more slowly than it otherwise would, I think we'd be happy to step up to the plate and try to work with you to address that deficiency, either through legislative action or through administrative action. But it's a critical project. I think the plans that I see tonight are very much in line with the vision that we all have for it. And I'm very appreciative, lastly, of you coming out to hear from all of us about why we think this is important. And I hope that the message that you will leave tonight with is that to this community, this project is critical. It should start as soon as possible. And we want to make sure that it's designed right because of the impact that it has, not only on people in Wilmington, but for people throughout the region who travel along this roadway on a daily basis. And for the record, I'm State Senator Bruce Tarr. Tarr is in paving. The last name is spelled T-A-R-R, and I'm the minority leader of the Senate. So appreciate your being here very, very much, and always appreciate the responsiveness of DOT whenever we've asked for your assistance. We've always been provided with it, and timely informational responses. So we do appreciate that and look forward to moving this project forward as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Senator.
The hearing is now open to the public. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, if we could give the board an opportunity, I have one substantive question and then one procedural question, I guess. Substantively, I'm looking at anticipated advertising in spring of 2016, and I'm hearing some statements to the effect that it'd be done in 2015. So, reiterating what our legislative delegates have already articulated, the sooner the better. I just don't understand the schedule still, so I'm hoping somebody can
Could you
enlighten me.
show the schedule?
Yeah, I think this is a schedule we developed from Mass DOT. I'm not sure how helpful this is to you, but what that depicts is the overall process that we must follow to acquire the Mass DOT funding on a project like this with design. We must follow a certain design submittal procedure. It has to go through certain review periods and clear certain permitting requirements both with the state and federal level. And that schedule reflects that based on the scheduled advertisement date of 2016. Speaking with Don, we believe that the design period could be accelerated if the funding were to become available and made necessary. That's probably something that should be evaluated.
Okay, so is it what I just understood you to say in my words, and please correct me if I don't have it right. In my words, you're giving us a schedule that would be the typical, quote, typical schedule for design, permitting, acquisitions, and construction. But you're also saying that if DOT is prepared to fund this project prior to that, then that we can complete that timeline more expeditiously.
I certainly can't speak for Mass DOT, but I can speak for us. We could certainly complete the design. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then I think we're all on board then with our legislative delegation that we need to continue to push to get this done as quickly as we can do responsibly. So, and the other housekeeping item that I had, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on the information that you presented, that there are packets here. If folks, when it's the appropriate time, members of the audience will elicit questions from them. If people have additional comments, this package is ready-made for them, which they can complete and deliver within 10 days of this hearing,
The
right?
second sheet, in other words, on the, you have the brochure?
Yeah.
On the brochure, the last page,
That's correct.
the last page, they can fill it up that.
Okay, so I have it clear, and then other folks who are in the audience who might be interested, there are forms here that if you think of something after the meeting that maybe you didn't think to ask, this process doesn't shut you out after tonight. You still have the opportunity to submit written comments and questions. Anything else from the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I do support the project. However, in its infancy, years ago, I supported the roundabout And ultimately, what you see tonight is a majority vote of the Board of Selectmen on signalization. At that time, I did ask the professionals that I thought the roundabout was an area that would be, traffic would move safely, but however, the traffic would move a little quickly. And that didn't happen. And I did ask that question at the time, and I'm glad to see the senator mention that relative to about, on the signalization, we're gonna have to really tweak it from time to time. I lived in this town all my life, and I remember there was 3 sets of lights, one by Silver Lake, one at the town center, and one down at Lucci's. And then over the past 10 years, we've added 6 more sets of lights. 2 by Market Basket, 1 by the old McNamara Tire, which is Rite Aid, and we have 1 by the train station, and 1 at 38 by the Shell station and at by A&S Towing. And it seems like we're just taking traffic, we're moving it quickly from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C. You know, I just hope to think, and I support the project, anything's gonna be better than it is, but I really thought the roundabout was the way to go. And I thought it was a safe manner. But I really hope when the time comes, we tweak that to make sure we move traffic in a safe manner, but quickly. And once again, you know, we're gonna have backup no matter where we go. Traffic's no matter what happens. And I said it before, and I'll say it again, I don't know if it's a curse or a blessing, but we have 4 entrance and exits off I-93 in the town of Wilmington. That is more from anywhere from Boston to Salem, New Hampshire. You know, so I just bring that forward, and anything's better than what it is, but I hope we really tweak what we do down the road. Thank you.
I agree with Selectman McCoy that the lights have quadrupled in the town over the years, but I also believe that at some point 93 was a dirt road. So there's the natural progression of what's going on here. The vehicles, 20,000 vehicles go through there a day. I was also in favor of the stoplights at the time. But just the sheer number of vehicles that go through there, I was kind of amazed that it was that high. I knew it was a lot of vehicles, but that seems like an awful big number. The statement of twice the state average of accidents in that intersection was pretty disturbing to me. That's a lot of accidents, so obviously something has to be done. And I agree that everything's been said about here about the timeline. Anything we can do as a board, I'm sure, I'm speaking for the board here, that we'll all be on board with that. Another question I had was the monument and the flagpole. You've mentioned a couple times it's going to be moved. You're going to work with the Conservation Commission, Historical Commission. Any idea, any preliminary plans where that would be moved to, or?
There was some early discussion about potentially near the cemetery, is one potential spot. But needs to be some additional discussion now as the design is starting to pick back up and the project's starting to move forward. To start those conversations over again with the Historical Commission to start to hone in on some suitable locations for that one.
Okay. I'd appreciate to be involved with that. I'm also on the Director of Veteran Services in town here. So I wouldn't mind being involved in that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I agree with the majority of the comments that were made. It sounds to me like the design to go with a traffic light format has been decided. Looking at the construction costs of $900,000 for 2002, is there a possibility that these numbers will go up exponentially the longer this project is delayed? And do we have some thought process as to how that would be handled, and if it could become an issue, if it becomes, a factor of money? That's one. 2, I'm happy to see the sidewalks, ADA, and also just, paramount safety for pedestrians, because obviously it's near the high school, so we will have a lot of foot traffic that may be walking to school, so that's something of concern. The other factor that I wanted to get a little bit of feedback on is also what steps to communicate with the residents that may be impacted by any sort of takings or donations and things of that nature. Specifically, the right-of-way issues, number 5, references that must I accept a municipality offer. It says, no, if the owner feels that the offer is not fair, the owner may petition the courts. This action does not stop or delay the acquisition. The action must occur within 3 years. So I'm just curious in terms of how we execute on a plan if we have a scenario where it's not a smooth process in terms of working with a given resident that may be impacted, and if you can share that for the benefit of the public, please.
Zitty, in regard to your third question, what the town, now, it's up to the town to acquire these, and again, there's no takings per se. The easements that are necessary on this project are temporary easements, which has already been mentioned. It's needed so a contractor, if needed, can step on your property to do the back of the sidewalks or to grade out the land after the project is completed. So those are temporary easements. In regard to a permanent easement or a taking, there are none. Now, what I will recommend to the town is to approach each owner that may have property and to approach them, explain the project in detail, what the easements are all about. But again, it's up to the town to do that. I'm only here to make sure that the town does follow those instructions, and that the property owner is giving the right of a appraisal, and if he or she does decide to accept the compensation, the town will be required to do so. So that's in regard to any kind of takings or easements or so forth.
Okay. I appreciate that, just because as you're working through your design, obviously, if you have the knowledge of knowing that certain areas may be accessible or not accessible to you, that may impact any sort of changes to your design plan, I would assume, potentially.
As far as I know, there are none in regard to the future that will change.
Okay.
It's not going to change at all.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Might I ask you, sir, to bring up that simulation? It doesn't have to be running, but can you bring up the grid again for me, please? I'll simply start by expressing my appreciation to Representative Maselli and Senator Tarr, first and foremost for spearheading this project on the Hill in Boston and getting this to the radar screen of the federal highway and getting the funding secured for this, and also, of course, for being here tonight and helping us gain a better appreciation for it. And I'll thank you in advance for the work you're going to do to help us get this thing moving forward and hopefully expediting the process. If you could define the word advertising, I'm not sure who the right guy is to direct this to, but that word was used. We're going to get to advertising in 2015, and I wasn't sure if that meant we could drive on it.
No, the advertisement date is the date at which point the plans and the specifications and and will be complete. The right-of-way or any acquisitions that are necessary have been done. All the permitting is cleared. The project can now be advertised in simple terms in the newspaper for a contractor then to solicit bids. They can now solicit bids from different contractors to actually bid on the project.
Okay,
advertise the project to transfer construction.
Thank you. And I kind of inferred that from what it was insinuated, but that's where 2016 comes from as potentially a completion date as to when we'll see the lights in place. Assuming
the end of 2016.
The end of
it is advertised and awarded in the spring of 2016. Construction to be considered to probably be complete by the end of 2016.
the end of 2016, which Representative Maselli, that's a long time away, sir, so I concur with your assertion from the beginning.
Acceptable.
So I'll look forward to hopefully expediting that process to the extent that we can do through the various boards. On this, I had a question that I wanted to ask about the queuing in two directions, if I may. I'm sorry. On Wildwood, I think you said it, but I wanted to make sure I heard you right. As this releases, at the same time that releases, they're going to be able to go right through here. They're not going to be stacked up here waiting for this light to turn as well, are they?
There will be a few seconds for the phasing though, so that, we will give them a few seconds here so that any car that could pass through this light can get through first, but they will hit a red pretty soon after. The reason why is we then have to allow Glen Road to go.
Yeah.
Because they need the time as well. But as soon as Glen Road stops, this will be green, so any cars that are from Wildwood that were queuing up in this pocket will get to go to the next set of right away. So they won't be impacting the cars that are on 62.
I admire your expertise in this area, I really do, because this to me seems so very complicated. And based on this and what I see as a kind of a ripple effect of concern, I wasn't on the board at the time that this was deliberated on the first time, but I remember sitting in the audience listening to the information that was handed out, that at that time I concurred with my colleague, Mr. McCoy, that I felt at that time that the roundabout was the better model. I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately, so we're working with this design, so I'm just trying to get my brain around it. Same question on queuing, going out 62 to the Concord Street light and back, I guess, southbound on 62 towards the high school. I think about the high school with the school traffic, buses and other stuff. How far back will that be allowed to queue?
Well, the period of analysis that we did was during the rush hour, which occurs from 4:30 to 5:30.
Okay.
So the school dismissal time, which has actually generally less traffic on 62. So we're not expecting to be the same level that we're talking about between that hour and the rush hour.
And it won't, you don't think on the northbound, I don't know if I'm saying, if I got my directions right, but from Concord Street in, you don't anticipate it getting backed up all the way to that light?
You know, if traffic gets heavy, it's possible you could see long queues on 62. And again, that's because, you know, we're trading off time to allow for side streets to go. And also, as I mentioned before, that because of the offset between Glenville and Wildwood, it's not the ideal offset for the traffic operations from the standpoint of view. So we have to give a few extra seconds to make sure no cars are stranded within there. And then at the same time, give appropriate time for the side streets. So majority of the time is given to 62, so I mean, there is a long queue. We do expect the majority to be clear under cycle 2. However, you know, during the rush hour time, when it gets really heavy, we could see contacts.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's, it seems like it's, there's no perfect solution to this.
I think that's where we could try to balance again. Performances on side streets, safety, as well as performances on 62, with the realization that the greatest demand is on 62. But unfortunately, we have to stop them in order to allow traffic on side streets.
Thank you. I liked everything else I heard. Public safety is the message that I guess it's the watchword for this entire project and certainly for tonight. Let's make the roads safer, make it safer for pedestrians, make it safer for drivers. I drive through this intersection twice a day, and I know exactly what we were referring to during the demonstrations. It's treacherous, and I'm pretty good at it. So anyone that's not good at it, I imagine it must be pretty scary to go through there. I thank you all for the attention to this, and I hope we can expedite the process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but certainly what Chairman Newhouse indicated, as well as the members of the legislative delegation, ought to be reiterated, because for the benefit of those folks who are here or who are watching, you ought to understand that the Board of Selectmen had several hearings on this, both here at the during Selectmen's meetings and during other specific meetings where we reached out to residents prior to a decision being made by the Board of Selectmen to approve a preferred design on November 24th of 2008. And that preferred design then was immediately worked on by Green International and provided to the then Mass Highway Department, now Department of Transportation, on August 12th of 2009. And then for 3 years, the Mass Highway Department, DOT, reviewed the 25% design. That is absolutely unacceptable. And I would echo the frustration that is being heard from the legislative delegation, and I'm sure from others, to think that it took 3 years to review this design that was presented at that time, and now we are faced with an advertising date of the spring of 2016. Somehow that makes very little sense to me. And so I know the members of the legislative delegation have indicated that they were going to move on that, but I would be embarrassed to use that as a project here in the town of Wilmington, to say that was a town of Wilmington project. So I hope that we're going to make up some time on this, because if you're telling us that there are problems there that are, in terms of accident rates, that are twice the state average, it just doesn't compute.
May I, Mr. Chairman, too? Sure. Through your office, Mr. Kyra, at one point not that long ago, a couple of years ago, didn't we put this project in as a shovel-ready project, too? And there was some federal money available? And
Yeah, it was. It was shovel-ready with the stimulus funds, but I think the money they had scheduled for Wilmington went for signs on Route 95 or something.
Okay.
It was they were using the shovel for something else.
I'm a short timer, so I can say all this.
Say anything you want.
Okay, if it's,
It's done?
yes, if you're prepared to take comments from the audience,
Now,
just...
the hearing is now open to the public. and we welcome your questions and comments. Identify yourself.
Catherine Marr, 21 Glen Road, 35 years. I moved here in 1977. I stand before all of you. Every member in my household has been in a major accident at that intersection. I stand here with 2 titanium knees because 8 years ago I was fielding and coming from Wildwood, going home. And at the time, my grandson was 18 months in the car seat behind me, and someone passed somebody coming down from 62 on the wrong side, and he broadsided me. I landed in the White House, the corner of Glen Road with the little horse, little horse where the horse and buggies used to be. My car was bounced into that driveway. I have had cars land in my driveway. I have had upside down in the winter, in the summer, in the spring, the fall. I now have I brought up 3 children. I taught at the high school. When I moved here in 77, there were no sidewalks. I walked with at the time, my daughter was born in 1980, so I was pregnant with no sidewalks. So I have been through, now I'm walking, my 6-year-old grandson, who just recently moved in a year ago, walking him from 21 Glen Road to around Lawrence Street, corner of Glendale Circle, to his bus stop. He's in the 1st grade with Ruben. We almost got hit Friday morning because some kids were coming around so fast that there's no sidewalk on the right-hand side. Now, I try to cross with my grandson Andrew to get safely to the bus stop, but if someone's coming off of Glen Road, we have no hope. The accident, another thing that one of my concern is too, I have not slept. And I am not exaggerating, probably not a full night's sleep. I have been on sleep medication since I have moved here. I don't know if you'll know my house. It's the 4th house down on the right. I have a double garage or a circular driveway, farmer's porch. So there's a little hill where my 2-car garage is. So we have glass bottles, beer bottles at 2 o'clock in the morning being thrown. Unfortunately, all the bedrooms are in front of the house. And my grandson is just, my daughter can't wait to move out because she says, I can't remember. She says, here I am, I'm 32 years old. And she says, I represented this town. I was the baby in the parade. She was in that convertible representing our town for the anniversary parade. And she said, I can't wait to get out of it. And I'll tell you right now, I can honestly say, if I have to wait till 2016, there will be a for sale sign. And I love my town. I volunteer at the 4th of July. I worked at the health center for 8 years. I taught at the high school. I still do a lot of volunteer work in town. I love Wilmington. But 2016, I'll be 67. I can't wait that long. I need to sleep. and I have to laugh because it's not fun, really, to be on medication because you live on, 21 Glen Road because there's so much traffic. What will happen now that I'm walking Andrew in the morning at 7:30 and seeing it? I'm a very early riser. But what will happen to the backup traffic? This is my concern too. And I don't want to go on and give someone else a chance. But I just wanted to say I'm living proof of a real accident, 2 titanium knees from being in a long hospitalizations, my other children. And I have to be very honest, not one of the accidents were caused from something we were doing. So all I have to say, please, let's work on a little bit before 2016, maybe before my 70th birthday. Thank you.
I might as well stand up and tell you, my name is Mike Marlowe, Kathy's husband, and I can attest to the fact that we've been married for 12 years, and in that 12 years, I probably slept 3 nights. We sleep with earplugs because of the traffic noise and everything else that goes on. I just want to know if you're going to put signs along the road for, for right turn, right lane, right turn only, left lane, left turn only. And what about the people coming off of Wildwood Street that have to get over to the left to get down to Glen Road? Are you going to do something about that too? Once again, for a safety issue. And that's basically about all I have to say.
Thank you. Good question. One of the components of this, or really any intersection project, is certainly signage that needs to go along with the new lane assignments. This will be new to everybody, obviously. So there'll be a period of transition, people getting comfortable with the new arrangement, the new lane assignments. But yes, there will be signage for all approaches indicating the proper lanes they should be in if they want to go left or right or go through. And as far as your question for Wildwood Street, if you recall from the simulation, actually they'll have a green light here and all this traffic will be stopped. So if they did want to get left onto Glen Road, they can very easily, without having to jockey around traffic, just get right into this left turn pocket lane and then wait there green and then take a left on the Glen. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody else? Jack Cushing, Middlesex Ave. Question I have for you is that, first of all, Mike and Lou, you were wrong. There were 3 traffic lights, Mike, but now this is going to be the 28th traffic light in Wilmington. The thing that kind of bothers me is that, and I know what Kathy's going through, what's happened to all these side roads in Wilmington is the traffic's been forced on them by the number of traffic lights on Main Street. When you have to go from my house in Middlesex Ave to Rocco's and you got to go through 5 traffic lights, that's a little much. And these are the things that have happened. So, as well as they did a traffic study on Wildwood and Glen Road, did anybody do a traffic study on the end of Glen Road to find out where these cars are coming from? Because I think one of the things you'd find out is in the morning, most of them are coming from out of town. And then the same thing at night, is you have people coming off 93, going down Woburn Street, coming across Wildwood, cutting across the town, so they don't have to go through the 8 traffic lights from Lucci's to Rocco's. And this is the problem. As a resident of the town, this means I am now locked in by traffic lights. I will not be able to leave my house and go anywhere in Wilmington without going through a traffic light. And I live right in the center of this whole thing. So, and earlier, when you were talking about the primes are at 2 o'clock, when the kids get out of high school, they're crossing 62. And it causes a backup right now with no traffic lights. What's it going to do when now you have traffic lights that are on some type of sequence? So I hope that, as Senator Tarr said earlier, I hope that one of the things you do is maybe find out that maybe we only need these lights to go on 2-3 hours a day and not 24, so that we're not paying the price the other 21 hours for somebody cutting through the town of Wilmington. And that's, to me, that's what this is all about, is how fast we can get traffic through from Tewksbury and Barica to Route 93 and back home at night. And if you live in any of these areas right here, and the traffic is getting awful on the side roads, not the main roads, the side roads which weren't built for that. And a lot of these roads don't have sidewalks on them. So, Kathy, I know the problems that you went through, and I know how bad it is. But let's not tie our people down. Let's not tie the residents in Wilmington down so we can get people from out of town through faster.
Yes?
Mary Kelly, 205 Middlesex Ave. I agree with what Jack just said, but on the other hand, my house has been hit by a car. My fence has been hit 4 times. 2 accidents this past couple of weeks. One, my neighbor's fence was hit. The woman went right through her yard, the next yard, and didn't stop until she got to a deck. Something has to be done there. In 2016, it's too late. I'm older than this lady, so I want it done fast.
Mike Plotner, longtime Wilmington, 3rd generation Wilmington resident, and I'd like to thank Representative Maselli and Senator Tarr. They brought up a very good point, saying waiting until 2:15 is too long, is same as our Board of Selectmen stating that. And as Senator Tarr said, when this project is finished, is there time to tweak this design I mean, you guys have laid this out. Oh, I want to thank you guys. You did a very great job in explaining our current traffic problems, and if this is the best you've come up with, I won't say it, I guess we'll have to live with it, but if it doesn't work, Senator Tarr said, how are you going to tweak it? And one other thing that wasn't mentioned by anyone tonight, we have a funeral home on the corner of Wildwood Street, and Chief and everyone else here knows on certain nights, they're parked on both sides of the street, and then the next morning, there is a funeral, and traffic lines up in front of the funeral home. So how is that going to affect your design coming through here? You do realize there is a funeral home there? Yeah, and I mean, right now, some people coming from North Wilmington park on this side of the road, and they park here. In the morning of the funeral, there's generally a line of people here in the back parking lot. One other thing I would like to mention on this design, you're putting in two sets of traffic lights, basically, correct?
It's, it is, but they're really going to function as one signalized intersection because of how close they are.
All right. Now, I think we all dislike stopping for lights, especially when there's no one coming in either direction. We have, I mean, at midnight on. Are these going to be on timers, or are they going to be on a different pattern after a certain hour, or are there going to be sensors in the road, or?
There will be sensors in the road. So, as I said before, these are actuated signals, so there will be sensors in the road. They can detect vehicles. So if there is no demand, say on Route 62, and you come in at Glen Row at 12 at night, the signal will switch to get the green for you rather than you wait 2 minutes or whatever.
I mean, I know you've heard from a couple people that live on Glen Road, and we who live in town more or less know how to navigate that intersection pretty well. You know, book it around the corner on Wildwood Street, get over real quick to the left and book it down Glen Road. This design may need tweaking, that's all I can say.
If I could answer some of your questions, you had asked a few questions, if I may. You had asked a few questions regarding if it's able to be tweaked. I think when it's constructed, the design, you had asked if the intersection could be tweaked. Certainly, once the physical reconstruction of the intersection is complete, the curb line, the sidewalks, and the roadway will be where they are. However, as is common on many, many signal projects, as hard as we try, we don't get it always exactly right in terms of the timing of the signals and the way the signals operate. So certainly there's an adjustment period where when the signal's first installed, no matter how hard we work and how well our design is, it doesn't always account for the odd occurrences that happen in real life. So what ends up happening oftentimes is the timing will need to be tweaked, and that's very common to happen, and happens all the time. So yes, it will have the functionality to be tweaked, and it can be tweaked for years to come as volumes change or as uses change. That timing of that signal can be changed an infinite number of times. It's as simple as reprogramming the timing and the phasing and the way these signals operate. That can happen. But again, the physical layout of it, it's not so easy to change. You could, but we don't certainly want to rip up new improvements that were just built. But the timing of the signal can be tweaked. As far as the funeral home parking, I think we need to look at that if that's a concern. We are aware that there is parking that occurs on both sides of Route 62. Certainly, it's a little bit of a concerning situation to have people try to hop across the road on 62 where there's no crosswalks. I'm sure they don't walk all the way down to the church to use the crosswalk down there. And so by providing the marked crosswalk at the signalized intersection, that should be safer. However, the current design and the current right-of-way width only allows us to provide 4-foot shoulders in those locations. So parking will be eliminated in front of the funeral home, but we will evaluate some options that to try to obtain some parking there if that's acceptable to Mass DOT. As far as I think the last question was about the signals and whether I think we addressed your question as far as the timing of the signals. What fully actuated means that in the road, they're going to cut, you've seen them everywhere, they're going to cut these rectangular loops in the road at all of these approaches. And what that can do is that'll sense when a vehicle's sitting on a motorcycle, even a bicycle, even. And when it senses a car's been there for long enough, it knows to change the signal to give that person the green light to go. But predominantly, the green time will be given to Route 62. So at 12 in the evening, if no one's on Glen Road or Wildwood, Route 62 will always have the green light. The only time Route 62 at night, during off-peak hours, will not have a green light is if someone calls that signal on one of the side roads, either Glen Road or Wildwood. So, hopefully that answers your
Like I said
questions.
about the lights, for those of us who live in town and use our intersections, I won't say 24 hours a day, I mean, I've got the lights all figured out in town. I mean, we've got the one up on Salem Street by the Hardin Tavern in Route 62, Woburn Street and 62. You've got sensors in the ground. Yes, 62 gets the green light the majority of the time. But if you're coming down Woburn Street heading north, you get a red light. And there's no way in tarnation is that red light going to change until the second car comes up behind you. So I've learned the lesson of lock it into reverse and set it off, and you go through it. There are a number of lights in town like that, and our neighboring towns too. You did tweak the lights down on Mass Department of Transportation down on West and Lowell Street. Traffic heading west on Lowell Street used to come off 93, and to take the left-hand turn, they got to go ahead, and West Street had to wait beforehand. Well, there's so much traffic in all directions now. You did a fairly fine job, and I think the lights that Selectman McCoy mentioned up in front of Market Basket, we've got additional new lights there, and I've noticed the systems have changed there also. So, as you guys said, and as Senator Carr said, there'll be time for tweaking it. It's just, I mean, getting it right. If you guys feel that this is the right project, I mean, the chief would be the one to know how he wants the flow of traffic to go. Keep it going in town. We had a Chief Nally a few years back, one of our local roads, they wanted to make it one way or put speed bumps in it. And it's the main cut through, the same way as Wildwood and Glen Road are cut through roads for out of towners. And when we use them to visit friends, come to the town hall, et cetera, et cetera. But Chief Nally had made a very good point a number of years ago. I won't cater to one neighborhood. My job is to not take the traffic from one neighborhood and put it into another neighborhood. My job is just to keep the traffic flowing continuously through all neighborhoods. And I'll say that to you too, Chief. Put some input with these guys from Boston.
I will. I can make one suggestion. We shouldn't back up in intersections.
Yes?
Hi, my name is Liza Valenza, and live at 200 Middlesex Ave. I have 3 questions. The first would be right on Reds. Will we be having right on Reds to have constant flow out of Wildwood and then also onto Wildwood and onto Glen Road? That's something I would want to ask about. Aesthetics, I've heard rumors that we're looking at traffic lights that would be similar to what's at the Hardin Tavern. Would be curious about that if we're going to take that into consideration. And also for Rep. Miceli and Senator Tarr, how can we be of assistance as people that live here in helping you get this agenda pushed forward?
If we need some help, really, I'll get your name before you leave tonight.
Sure.
The senator and I would be glad to contact you.
I know enough to be dangerous. I know you from my wealth days. Watch out.
I'll fasten my
Oh, another Republican.
And independent, my goodness.
There are more of us than you think.
For you, I'll be a Republican.
Only kidding.
We're all friends here. But anyway, Eric, can you help me with any of those on the Reds or?
Yep, I can answer the first one. Yes,
Thanks, Wayne.
The right turn on red will not be allowed under the proposed condition, and this is for the safety of the pedestrian phasing, as we mentioned previously, that it will be an exclusive phase, so we wouldn't want right turns on red during that time, so that we would show.
And as far as the aesthetics, I think, I'm not familiar, I just talked with Dawn, I'm assuming you're talking about the black fluted ornamental mast arm. That's something we can discuss with Mass DOT. Typically, that's not funded by the state. Typically, that would be something that the town would have to pay for, because it's it's an additional kind of amenity. It's not a necessity.
Okay.
But that's something we can work with the town and the state on to see, evaluate what the options are, if that's the case. Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody else?
Paul Millerani, I'm on the butter of 176 Middlesex Ave. Nothing's going to happen with the crosswalk in front of the library at this point that can remain intact?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's we have to do some investigation to see if that's even an approved crosswalk. Typically, and with the addition of this marked and signalized crosswalk, we would typically recommend to remove that unmarked crosswalk. It's just, from a safety standpoint, it's been blocked, and especially with this traffic volume at these speeds, they're just not good options, especially when you have a signalized crosswalk. So that's something actually we're evaluating a little bit right now. In addition, it's not ADA compliant because it dumps you right onto the driveway as well. So that's another concern as well.
What do you mean it dumps you on the driveway?
In other words, it doesn't have an ADA accessible handicap ramp on the church side of the roadway.
I think he's talking about another one that's actually south of the park.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is the crosswalk right in front of the Memorial Library, which is like right off your plan, like down.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the one at the church. I apologize.
No.
Yeah, the one at the church, Eric indicated may have some problems. We may be able to relocate that a little bit and keep that, but the one in the library will remain.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was fine. Has all the required site distances.
Okay. I also want to go on the record too, just to be sure that we keep a close eye on this. Do we have your phone number when this thing is all said and done, so we can call you guys, come down and tweak these times on these lights? Because I see these projects happen all the time, and we don't see anybody come back ever again. And I'm the guy, I must have a plastic car, because my car doesn't trigger.
Did you back up?
I don't back up. I'm the guy that sits there for 10 minutes. And finally I just go and hope there's no police on it. But,
yes, Don has our phone number.
okay, and so you really, to Mr. Bardner's point, the funeral home does get to be, every once in a while, Margaret does have a huge crowd there. And they park right in front of my house. And I don't begrudge what Margaret does, and these people have to get there and the whole bit, but I can't see you taking away spots there and helping that situation at all. They're just going to park further down the street in front of my house, which I said, I really don't care about that, but you really need to take that into consideration. Come down there when there's a big funeral, and there's 50 cars on the street, on both sides of that street. Thank you. Thanks.
Somebody else? Well, if there are no other questions or comments, I would like to remind you that the last sheet of the handout is a mailing sheet. If you have any further questions or comments which you would like to submit, please use this sheet for that purpose. You may leave the sheet with me tonight, or you may mail it to the department within 10 days of this date, and it will become part of the official record. Before I close to this hearing, I would like to say that we will be here as long as you are interested in looking to the plans, and we will try to respond to questions that affect you personally. Thank you very much for attending and providing us with this auditorium. I declare this hearing closed.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and if folks are interested in further reviewing the plans, would ask the representatives from Green to take them out in the hallway to a convenient place or into the front foyer. Might be actually a better location. And we'll give you a few moments to break down here before we move on to our next item. While we give these folks a chance to break down their equipment and move out.
Thank you guys. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys working extra hard if you can, all right? Yeah, I'm gonna go first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job. Tell the truth, what's better, the roundabout or the signalization? They both have to do it. There you go, good answer. Yeah. There you go.
Eric is here.
The intersection? Yeah, he don't know what he started. He's at 28, man. Can I be honest? I did my math. I was right. That's what happens when you get a little older. Yeah. It's bitter. Yeah.
I did, he said, you're on. I think he said, did he say 28?
Yeah.
What is it, 28?
Yeah, he did. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie.
Very good. Well, don't go anywhere, because we still have business to attend to, but thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Nice talking to you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Wow, this is...
Madam, yeah, good job, by the way.
Thank you.
No waste of paper.
We're doing reports. We've lost control. We've lost control. I've lost control.
Yeah.
Yeah, get him out of here, will you?
Jeez, thanks for that.
Game started. It's a game started. Football game.
Right. Hey, Eric, anything you guys can do to push it along?
Which one? First one? Eric with a K, Eric K. Last one is K-I.
Oh, I will, okay.
I think it's going to have
They are. Thank you. Thank you. Good night, thank you. Good night. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nice job.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, we'll resume with our agenda items. Before moving to our 7:45 appointment, just like to, before moving to our 7:45 appointment, I'd just like to acknowledge that immediately following that on the agenda is an appointment scheduled for the recognition of Michael A. Kyer on the occasion of his retirement as Wilmington Town Manager. I just want to give folks a heads up that we're going to take that out of order at the very end of the meeting, but the remainder of the agenda is quite brief, so just as a heads up. Again, our 7:45 appointment is with Jo Marie O'Mahony, President of the Women of Wilmington. It's regarding an update on Women of Wilmington programs and request to conduct the 2013 Run for Wilmington Walk for Kim Forte.
Good evening. I'm Jo Marie O'Mahony, the President of Women of Wilmington. I have with me Jen Bolanos, who's one of our board members. We wanted to just give you a quick update on all the great things that we've been doing over the last few months, and then to ask for your approval in planning of next year's road race. Since the last time we came, we have been able to supply school supplies for 55 Wilmington students, Wilmington children. We also put together care packages for all 8 public schools for for extra supplies for their front office to have, as well as supplies that their school nurses might want to have on hand for kids, like for the early childhood centers, clothing and new underwear and new socks and things like that for them just to have on hand. We still offer twice a month. We do activities for the Angels in Motion group, and we still do ongoing volunteer work with the food pantry. Our volunteers go every Saturday to help now with their organization. We also help with some of the shopping and some of their seasonal projects that they have right now. We're helping to coordinate the Thanksgiving food baskets that we're going to be putting together for approximately 60 families in town between now and November. We also are still plugging away at our Sponsor a Child program. We have been getting more response. Please go to our website, womenofwilmington.org, for information. This program is for any child in Wilmington to apply so that they can go to extracurricular activities they might not otherwise be able to afford to attend. So we have been able to provide tuition for dance, as well as some of the athletic organizations in town. When they've kind of reached their ability to help out, we can step in and offer some financial assistance as well. And we found, even through the schools sometimes, that we'll get kids that if there's something they might need extra tutoring or something that the school can't necessarily accommodate immediately, we can help supply some funding for that. So we have an application for that. Again, if you go to our website, you'll see that. And we are pretty soon, again, going to be launching our Adopt a Family program for the holidays. What makes our program a little bit unique, we do adopt some families through the community fund every year, which is for the children of Wilmington, but we also have our own Adopt a Family program, and we try to offer assistance to the entire family. So we make sure that mom, dad, grandma, anyone that's living in the home also has some items around the holidays, as well as gift cards for necessities and things that they might not otherwise be able to get on their own. So that application will be coming out in the next few weeks as well, and we hope. Last year we were able to adopt 10 families, I think 3 or 4 of which were through the community fund, and so this year we're hoping to once again be able to help as many families as we can. So that being said, we have our anniversary party. If you can believe it, we've been here for 2 years, coming up in October. So our second anniversary party is Wednesday, October 17th at the Wilmington Knights of Columbus at 7. It's open to all members. We usually do a brief tutorial on our website. Everything is still web-based. You can volunteer through our website for different activities that we have, so we usually do a short tutorial on that. But we also open it up to people who just want to learn more about us, who might be interested in joining, or who might have an activity they want us to look into to participate. Right now we have almost 330 members, so we're always looking for different ways to keep them involved in the town. So mark your calendars for that if you have any interest. Our second annual Festival of Trees will be on Saturday, December 1st at Villanova Hall at St. Thomas's Church. We again look forward to the success that we had last year and complimenting all of the town activities that are going on that day. And we're thinking about expanding it into Sunday morning for those people who don't necessarily get over there on Saturday, or at least have the winners announced on Sunday. So more to come on that, but definitely Saturday, December 1st. It will be open all day. We're looking for tree donations again from organizations or neighborhoods in town. So if you have any interest in putting a tree together, again, just email me through our website and I'll put you in touch with the right person. So finally, why I'm here tonight, amongst thanking Mr. Kyra, is we have our 3rd annual 5K run for Wilmington and the Kim 40 Walk, and we would like the Selectmen's approval in having that next Sunday, April 28th of 2013 at 10 a.m. again. And it would be similar to the last 2 years. The route would be the same. We would again coordinate with the police department to make sure that any safety issues were addressed beforehand. But I'd like to ask for that approval tonight for that date.
Okay. Questions, comments, or a motion from the board?
I'd just like to ask why such short notice? You could have come in a little sooner.
Yes, that's our problem. Our lack of planning has been our problem for 2 years, so we're trying to improve it.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve the request.
I'll second
it. Judy second.
Okay, made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? That's unanimous.
I didn't take the opportunity to make a comment before the vote. I wanted to get the vote dispensed with, obviously. But in 2 short years, you've obviously become a very vibrant, prolific charitable organization. I thank you, but I want to make sure that the word gets out to all of the people that are participants in this, that you have been sort of the face of Women of Wilmington, but I know there's a lot of Women of Wilmington. And I have a question for you. Are there any men of Wilmington that are part of Women of Wilmington?
There are. They're called the Woe Men. Get it? The Wow Men, Woe Men.
I think I get it, yeah.
We do have men who have joined. We've had kids who have joined. My daughter, actually, I was a little touched when I went to her open house, and she had to write something that she was proud of. And she said that she was proud that she was a member of WOW and that she helps at the food pantry. So right there was kind of like, that's going to get me through the next 10 years of being a part of this great organization. But we do have children that have joined. We have men that have joined. The Women of Wilmington was a name that we came up with when we thought we were only going to be 40 women. And that kind of leads me into what I'd like to say to Mr. Kira tonight very briefly, and I apologize if I'm making you guys even later than you already are. But the Women of Wilmington didn't exist 2 years ago, and probably wouldn't exist today, but for a meeting I had with Mr. Kira when I went to talk with him, and you've probably heard this story before, but I'm just going to take a minute to tell it again. As a lot of you know, I have a problem speaking and asking for things, so I went to see Mr. Kira to talk to him about an idea I had for a fundraiser for a local family in need at the time, and I kept using the pronoun we, and he finally stopped me and he said, "Who's we? You know, you've told me all these great ideas, you told me what you want to do, but how are you going to do it?" And I realized at that point that we had been able to do things for the previous years under different organizations in town, or just as kind of a group of concerned individuals, but the time seemed to be the right time to put us together as a group. And it was because of Mr. Kira's suggestion and kind of that awakening for me that the Women of Wilmington formed soon thereafter. So that being said, I put together a certificate of appreciation for Michael Kira for all of his support and inspiration in showing us that we can change this community one act of kindness at a time. And I have this and just a little token. It's not candy this time. I know I usually come with candy. We have him. Fonz, can you pass it down?
My feminine side.
I was trying to get it in pink, but... And just to follow up on Selectman Shampoo's question, there's always spots available for men who might find themselves with more time on their hands. So we look forward to Mr. Kira being a part of WOW for many years to come.
There you go. Be kind.
Yes. And there's one for Mrs. Kira as well, because we know she's the
clearly
boss.
my size. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
As I had indicated briefly, we're going to put off our 8 o'clock agenda item just to take care of the other items that we have on the agenda, and we'll return to that item at the very end of the meeting. So if we could move to communications.
Mr. Chairman, you have before you a memorandum from Jeffrey Hull, who is the town manager designee, regarding the assistant town manager human resources director position. And I know Jeff is still here, as he has been attending the meetings right along. So I'll just summarize that he is announcing his appointment of Kendra Amaral to the position of assistant town manager human resources director. And Ms. Amaral will start on October 9th, 2012. She is from Stoneham, and she was selected, I can tell you, from among 63 applicants. We were really buoyed by the amount of applicants that we received. The selection committee consisted of Police Chief Bagonis, Library Director Christina Stewart, Water and Sewer Superintendent Mike Woods, myself, and obviously Jeff. And he met with the committee and reviewed the 63 resumes. From that, we developed a short list of candidates to interview. We had 5 finalists, and I can tell you that every one of them, and I know Jeff and I have had this conversation, every one of them could have been the assistant town manager. We were really fortunate, because oftentimes we've heard from other communities where they've had a dearth of applicants or they haven't had the strongest pool, and we really had a very, very strong pool of applicants. Jeff then narrowed it down to 2 people, had second and maybe even third interviews, because he really did due diligence on this, going through all kinds of reference checks and background checks, and all of these people really came out very strong. But he has concluded that Ms. Amaral is the best candidate, and we're happy to tell you that she accepted. Just a little bit about her quickly. She'll come to Wilmington from a position as a Deputy Director for Planning and Development for the City of Lowell, where she managed project review, permitting, and code enforcement for the city. And don't be fooled by that title. She was really in charge in Lowell because they have a different type of organizational chart where there is the city manager and then 2 assistant city managers. And so she was really in charge for all of the plan and development and all of that activity, and was brought in from her prior position by City Manager Bernie Lynch, who went out and recruited her, knowing just how talented this woman was, to straighten out a real problem that the city was having in the inspectional services. She served for more than 4 years as the Chief of Staff in the city of Amesbury, where she oversaw a variety of citywide operations. As Chief of Staff to a mayor, you really are like a deputy mayor or an assistant town manager, if you will. Prior to that, she worked in the private sector before entering municipal government service, including 6 years with the Boston Children's Museum, where she served as Director of Planning and Research. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in economics from Purdue University. And I know in Jeff's memorandum, he talks about the fact that her efforts led Amesbury to receive the Kenneth E. Picard Award for Innovation in 2008, a similar award that we received a few years ago from the Massachusetts Municipal Association. And she also received the Trailblazer Award from the Centers for Government Performance in 2009 for her development of a statistical tracking model known as AIMSTAT. She brings a wealth of experience, and I think people are going to really enjoy her. And it's Jeff's intention to ask you, Mr. Chairman, if he can bring her to the meeting when she starts on October 9th to introduce her to the board and to the community.
Sounds good. Look forward to meeting her personally. And thank you to Jeff and to yourself and the members of the selection committee or the search committee. And we look forward to enjoying a long-standing relationship with her. Questions or comments?
Well said.
Okay.
As an aside, she's the first woman to serve as either a town manager or assistant town manager in Wilmington, so that's a notable accomplishment as well. The board is being asked to consider executing the agreement between the town of Wilmington and town manager designee Jeffrey Hull.
For the folks who are present or folks who might be watching on television, the board has met directly with Mr. Hull on a few occasions over the course of the summer. We've come to a mutually acceptable contract, which I would characterize as being a contract that both parties are looking forward to hitting the ground running. In terms of substance, Mr. Hull has agreed to waive an early retirement incentive that otherwise would be available to him and historically has been available to all town employees historically, although the town the last several years has begun trying to phase out that that incentive, and we've been able to do that successfully. But nonetheless, Mr. Hull would have been grandfathered, if you will, and he has agreed to waive that. He's also agreed to not to require any longevity payments, which again is a long-standing practice in the town. I'll leave it to Jeff going forward to continue to do the work we've done to address issues of longevity and compensation and collective bargaining, as he's assisted the town manager in doing for many years now. But in any case, Mr. Hull has agreed to waive those increases. And then the important question I think that many folks have in their mind, what will the starting salary be? Starting salary will be $133,200, which is, the board is pleased with getting what we consider to be a hometown discount that we've come to expect, and frankly, we've come to enjoy over the course of the past 20 years. And the increases over the second and third years of the contract would be 2.5%. So with that, having summarized the terms of the agreement, do we have any questions, comments, or motion from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we establish agreement between the town of Wilmington and Jeff Hull, commencing from the appointment we made on May 29, 2012, and commencing on October 1st, 2012 through September 30th, 2015, as a contract between the town of Wilmington and the new town manager, Jeffrey Hull.
I'll second that, please.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous with Mr. Smaglia abstaining.
Okay. The board is being asked to consider approving the memorandum of understanding between the town of Wilmington and Historic New England to ensure the preservation of the Bowtell Hathorn House at 280 Woburn Street, known as the Richardson Estate, and further that the town manager be designated as the town representative having authority to address repairs and alterations. The board has a copy of the MOU, which is a policy, not a binding agreement, committing the town to undertake any action with respect to the property, but it does address certain activities that would take place in cooperation with Historic New England, including annual site visits and how that works out. Also, the review of work, whether they be minor repairs or major repairs and projects, and how the agreements are enforced. What is specifically needed in terms of a motion, Mr. Chairman, would be to designate the town manager, and obviously that'll be me for another few days, and so I would suggest you just simply designate the town manager so that there would not be a problem going forward, as the board's agent with respect to approval of requests for all work to be done to the property. The town doesn't relinquish any of its rights with regard to its historic easements on the property, and in fact maintains all review of the property. Any kind of change that would go forward would have to receive the agreement of the town's representative, and I suggest that be the town manager.
All right, so do you have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
The board has a letter from Judy Jones, who lives in Wilmington, indicating that she's interested in being married on the town commons gazebo. She is proposing a date of Thursday, August 1st, 2013, at 10 a.m. In her letter, she also requests to have some type of reception with food, possibly a barbecue on the common, and she addresses other issues. So I bring this to the board's attention. Not sure what they want to do. I know I've talked to the chairman on this.
Yes, for the board's information, I was able to speak to Ms. Jones at the end of this past week, and again, very briefly today. What's included in the request that's before you is a request to use the common at that day and time, but also a specific request regarding the ability to have a barbecue. So I wanted to make sure that Ms. Jones understood it's ultimately the board's decision, but I did explain that historically that's not something that we've typically done, that typically the town has just agreed to accommodate folks with the wedding ceremony. Anticipating a question that the board might have, I also had a discussion with Ms. Jones about our expectations that we would have a new high school project in full swing at that point, as well as the sewer project running down Church Street. She's aware of the complications in that regard, and what I suggested to Ms. Jones was that when she has specific questions regarding scheduling, which is still a bit nebulous given the current status, that we can connect her with the appropriate people, police chief relative to public safety, construction management team relative to specific construction schedules and the like, but that to me it made the most sense for the board to entertain the request, take a vote on it, and then if it's the board's pleasure to accommodate that request, then she can kind of ferret out some of these details. With the date of August 2013, she seemed, I would characterize her response as comfortable that she can make some accommodations or other plans. So she agreed that it made sense to bring it forward, notwithstanding some of the open issues. So I present that to the board for your information, and then entertain any discussion or motions.
Have we historically, I know it's, to me, I have no objection to the ceremony being held there or even photographs after, but we have not historically granted the common for a reception or a barbecue or a party. I mean, they don't typically gather there after the ceremony. It's usually the ceremony, some photos, and go somewhere else to celebrate. Isn't that typically how it has?
Your memory is the same as mine.
Yeah, I'm kind of personally, I'm inclined to leave it in that framework. So I'm not sure if we want to move to approve it with that contingency put upon it, but that would be something that I'd be inclined to. But I lob that out there for you guys.
I'm in agreement with Selectman Shampoo.
Anything else? Anybody, if we're, given the issues surrounding construction, then perhaps we should consider, if the board is inclined to grant the request, subject to the ceremony only, no reception or food served, and then subject to recommendations of the Police Department, Department of Public Works, and Department of Public Buildings. You think that'll cover it with the high school project, Mike? I would think so, right, between those three departments? So would that be acceptable to be included in the motion?
I'd feel more comfortable if that was added in there.
Okay.
Just to, with things, just like you said, the nebulous point, I think it's important to have some room for future discussion, and I think that those privileges would guarantee that with that wording.
Okay.
In your discussion with her, did she say at some point she doesn't need a decision tonight? Was there like a cutoff date where she has to know to send out invitations?
Obviously, I think that would be sooner rather than later, but she agreed with me in terms of our saying, let's at least get this piece of it, let you know where you stand, and then you can further explore it. Okay. I assume she'll do that imminently.
So I'll make the motion then. I'll move to approve the use of the town common and gazebo for Thursday, August 1st, 2013 at 10 a.m. for the purpose of a wedding ceremony and photographs after, contingent upon, and I'll say only, and not approving the use of the common for a celebration or food service or a party thereafter. And this is also contingent upon the I guess the approvals of the boards that you mentioned a moment ago, if you want to list them again for my...
Police Department, Department of Public Works, and Public Buildings.
So noted.
Okay, we'll accept that as a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, you have a request from Sharon George, Town Clerk, to appoint the following individuals as election workers, particularly in light of the presidential state election to be held on November 6th. They are all Wilmington residents: Sharon McLaughlin, Medora Miller, Paige Miller, Karen Campbell, and Julie Murphy.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
Board is being asked to consider the approval of a license to sell Christmas trees for the Boy Scouts of America, Troop 56, in care of John Manini, and for the Wilmington Methodist Church, care of John Arvanitis. There has been favorable recommendations in both cases. Chief Pagonis indicates that they've reviewed the applications and recommends approval of each license, and there are no other issues that the town would be concerned with. These are renewals in a sense because these two groups have been doing this for quite some time. The Boy Scouts would sell the trees and wreaths at Colonial Park Plaza, 35 Lowell Street, and the Wilmington United Methodist Church would sell the trees at their own location on Church Street.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve the request. Made and seconded. All in favor? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, again, board to consider request to change the name and change owner on flammable license from Dom's Mobile doing business as Petro Group to Wally Daya, DBA Ivona LLC, for property located at 603 Main Street. This matter has still not been resolved, and I would request that the board consider tabling the matter to a future meeting.
Do we have a motion to table to the next regularly scheduled meeting?
Motion to table till next scheduled meeting.
Second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
That completes the regular business before the board.
Public comments. And I know if folks have, and I know specifically Rep. Maselli has some comment to make, if we could get through new business and important dates, then I'd like to return to our 8 o'clock agenda item and recognize Mr. Cairo. Just take another 2 moments and we can end on that note, please. New business? Important dates, Mr. Cairo.
I'll remind folks that September 29th, this Saturday, is Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, which is being held at the Public Safety Building, where you can return your unused medications. Please no syringes or needles, but you can take back anonymously your unused medication. The Farmers Market's last day will be on September 30th, Sunday, at the Town Common parking lot from 10:30 to 1:30 p.m. Let folks know that who are interested that the senior tax work-off applications will be available beginning October 1, and you can pick those up either at the Town Hall, the Town Manager's office, or at the Bazell Senior Center. There will be a meeting of the Yentau Farm Development Committee on October 4th, Thursday, here at Town Hall in Room 9 at 7 p.m. And the committee has been tasked with a number of issues to decide, and in the process we'll be developing various alternative plans to go forward for that property. These are all public meetings. If anybody's interested in going to the meeting, they're welcome to do so. Town offices are closed on October 8th, Columbus Day. The next Board of Selectmen meeting then will be held on a Tuesday, October 9th. Folks should know that we now have the Old Main Street Recycling Center open for brush drop-off on October 10th and on October 13th. The Harden Tavern's open house is October 14th, and the last day to register to vote in the state and presidential election is October 17th.
Okay, we'll return then to our 8 o'clock agenda item, which is the recognition of Michael A. Cairo on the occasion of his retirement as Wilmington Town Manager. I wanted to make sure that we had ample opportunity for the members of the Board of Selectmen to publicly recognize and acknowledge the work that Mr. Cairo has done throughout his tenure here as Town Manager. Before doing that, I'd like to invite State Representative Jim Maselli forward. As I understand, you also have a presentation you'd like to make.
Yeah, Mike, want to thank you for the service that you've given to the community, and you'll be missed. I'm quite sure you'll make your presence heard locally for years to come. And it's been a pleasure working with you. We've always been on the same track at times. And it's a great pleasure for me tonight to present you with the citation from the House. And it reads as follows: the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, be hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offer sincere congratulations to Michael A. Carter in recognition of your outstanding, dedicated, and effective service to the town of Wilmington. I was going to put it there, you will be missed by the community, but I know you'll be around. And we hope you enjoy your retirement and always enjoy your family. And the entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune, continued success in all endeavors, and is signed the 24th day of September 2012 at the State House by your good friend Robert DeLeo, Speaker of the House, and your good friend James Maselli, State Representative.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And in that vein, I know we want to make sure that each selectman has the floor. If I could just ask you to bear with me for a moment. We also have a citation here from Representative Charles Murphy, who forwarded along the following: be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Michael A. Kyra in recognition of your 22 years of dedicated service to the community as Wilmington Town Manager. Your leadership and vision has improved the quality of life for all Wilmington residents, and we wish you continued success and happiness in all of your future endeavors. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success. And it's signed by the Speaker of the House, Robert A. DeLeo, on the 27th day of September, and it's offered by Charles A. Murphy. So congratulations on behalf of... If I could go to the board and see who wants to start.
I'll start off. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a selectman, I've served with Mike Kyra as our town manager longer than any other selectman on record. During our tenure, we've agreed and disagreed from time to time, which is only human nature. However, at the end of the day, we've always done what's best for our town. I do believe we share a mutual respect. I can honestly say Mike Kyra has been a great town manager. We've had many discussions over the past 20 years, both professional and personal. I feel on some level we are friends. Through some of our more personal conversations, we've discussed everything from food to politics. And I've learned that he does not and will never like tripe, which I happen to love. I have also personally observed, and he has made it quite apparent, that he's an exceptional family man and that he loves his wife more than life itself. Hey. I could go on and on about what he has done as manager, what we've done together as a board, but tonight is not the night for that. I simply want to thank you, Mr. Manager, for your years of service, devotion to the town, dedication to the job of town manager, and just for being a good guy. You will be missed in that Senate chair, and I just want to come over and shake your hand.
Oh, can I be next? I'm sick over this, Mike. I had a prepared statement as well, but I forgot it in my office. So I'd like to bring up twice the state average of accidents. Oh, I'm sorry, that was something else I took earlier. No, this is an extremely happy meeting for me. The only reason I ran to get on this board was to get rid of you. He could never balance a budget. And so this meeting means a lot to me. I knew as soon as I started working for the town that he has a sense of humor. All his department head memos come out on pink paper. That's not funny, I guess, if you know.
Well, you have a pink tie on.
Yes, in honor of Mr. Kyra and his family, obviously. Can't balance a budget. No. I did have a prepared statement, and we did pull our money, and we did get you a gym membership because you're going to miss the sparring sessions every other week here. But seriously, I personally would like to thank you for taking a chance on me and appointing me to a position that I hold now for 7 years plus now. that means extremely a lot to me, and I really appreciate you taking the chance and putting me in there. And this is a little something that I spent a lot of time picking it out and designing it for you. And you might need these, because you might get a little emotional once you see that. We'll put that right there.
That means Marion actually.
Nope, I did it all myself, Jim. Yes, I did.
All right. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. This is the blonde day. This is great. The shining moment. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. You'll have a place of honor.
Yes, I'm sure it will.
Who's next?
Well, I guess it's me. So, well, I've been working on being a woman of few words, and I haven't quite mastered it yet. So I promise it won't take me 22 years to offer my remarks, but I certainly do appreciate the opportunity to convey some of my thoughts in this very significant milestone in your life. Obviously, you gentlemen have been emotional, so I'm obviously going to add on to that. The irony of it is I was actually a junior in high school when Mr. Kyra started as a town manager. And it seems like only yesterday, but to think that this many years later, would fast forward and be sitting beside you and having the opportunity to share my remarks on the last Board of Selectmen meeting as the newest member of the Selectmen is quite an amazing thing for me. I consider it to be just a distinct honor to have worked with you, first as a member of the school committee for 3 years and now as the newest member of the board. And I want to thank you for all of your cooperation and just your friendly demeanor and just welcoming me into municipal town government and making sure that all of our interactions were professional, that they were productive, they were positive. And I truly knew at every moment that you were always focused on what was best for the residents of the town and also for the community at large. There are so many accomplishments and achievements and milestones that you've achieved over the last 22 years, and you'll hear us here tonight, and over the next week, there'll be so many people that will say so many of the same things and slightly different, and I think it's just a wonderful thing, and it's because they're all true. And you could talk about capital improvements, you could cite statistics, you could really talk about any one specific project, but to think of a family known as the Kyras who've come here, settled here years ago, your entire family or a majority of your family, of your immediate loved ones, your wife, your mom, your sisters, your children are here, to think of all of the years and all of the dedication and all the time that you've put into the town, and to be here tonight on a voluntary retirement, and to essentially go out at the top of your game. I couldn't be happier for you as a person, as a resident, and now as a business colleague. And in preparing the remarks, how can you really encapsulate 22 years? It's very difficult to do that. And I've only had the good fortune of just really getting to know you more recently. And I read a paragraph that, in my opinion, was written by a very wise man, and it reads as follows. The essence of Wilmington is captured in the spirit of its people. Wilmington is a community that values its children and reveres its seniors. It is a community with a generous heart and an open mind. It is a community that welcomes change but respects tradition. The town of Wilmington encourages every resident and every visitor to enjoy the splendor of its resources. We're a community proud of its past and energized by the prospect of a bright and happy future. And when I read this, I immediately thought of you. And the irony of it is that over 22 years, I believe that you've exemplified this very paragraph in your actions and in your leadership, in so many things. And as I scroll down, the irony of it is that the author is Michael A. Kyra, town manager of Wilmington. Well, tonight I want to say to you that you are not only the author of this paragraph, but in many ways you are the creator. You have shaped the current and future face of Wilmington for many years to come. You have made so many significant contributions to the zip code that we affectionately know as 01887. This has been a home to you. I believe that your occupation here has been a labor of love, and you have taken a wonderful town and you have made it even better. You have shaped the future for me, for your children, for your grandchildren, and for many generations to come. So tonight, as I prepared these remarks, I wanted to thank you for your service and dedication. I don't see this as a goodbye. I see this as I'll see you soon. And I just want to thank you, and I hope that you enjoy your family and your friends and your free time. And once again, I want to thank you and offer my sincerest congratulations.
Thank you. That was beautiful, Judy. I have the awkward spot of being last and trying to top the remarkable comments of my colleagues. This is a very bittersweet night for me personally, and it's a bittersweet night, I think, for all of us in Wilmington. The bitter part, I guess, for me anyway, as an elected official whose ultimate responsibility is to make sure that the town stays on the right track and that we're in good condition, is we're letting go of the best guy in the business. And I can say that now comfortably because I don't have to negotiate his contract again. It's hard to let go of someone so good at his job, even in as much as, Jeff, we have full and great confidence in your abilities. But Mike, your absence will be felt for a long time. The sweet part is that as your friend, and I hope I can call myself that, it's great to see you moving on to take this next step in your life. I'm very happy for you that you get to now enjoy what you so richly deserve, and this time to spend with your family and to de-stress a little bit. You've certainly earned it. I look forward to many years of continuing to collaborate with you, hopefully through the many organizations. Maybe we'll both be women of Wilmington at some time soon, and I'll look forward to working with you in those and many other collaborations going forward, whether I'm on this board or anywhere else, and I will look forward to those days. I want to thank you personally, because when I came on this board a little over 4 years ago, I was green, and I still ask a lot of annoying questions, and I know I do, but that's what I feel is my job up here. You've always been very patient with me. I consider you a mentor. I ask you questions here publicly, and you've always been very professional and complete and concise with all of your information. But you know and I know that I would ask you a lot of pain-in-the-neck questions by email and on the phone when I would call you, and never once did you ever short me of time on an answer. And I feel like I am a much better selectman now because of the time that you have spent with me and helping me get up to speed. So thank you for helping me grow as a professional and as a public servant. I'll leave it at that for now and say, like Judy, until our next opportunity to work together, I look forward to that. I look forward to your continued support in working with this town. We're going to need you going forward, so don't go too far. Thank you, sir.
And I do have a letter of commendation on behalf of the board, but before I get to that, just two items. Number one, I wanted to recognize Mike's family in the audience. I see his wife, Jane, here. I see his daughter, Jennifer Bolanos, sister, Michelle Kyra Nortonen, daughter, Angela, mom, I'm just so used to saying Mrs. Kyra, but Mrs. Loretta Kyra, and son, Brian. So thank you all for joining us here tonight. We look forward to much more time to share some thoughts and hear others talk about Mike on Thursday night. Very briefly, I think that what's been said has been right on the money. From my perspective, when people ask me, what is it about Mike Kyra that makes him an effective manager? And I've always said to people that he has this unique ability to demonstrate political acumen and management, administrative abilities. And to that point, I always tell people, we can rattle off what the town manager does under the town charter, but when push comes to shove, he manages money, he manages personnel, and he manages situations. And as folks have alluded to up here, He's brilliant at all of those things. The other thing that I always tell people is the biggest reason I think why Mike Hyra has been an effective manager is because he thinks a half a day at work is from 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. So I think it's your work ethic more than anything.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Just like to read this letter of commendation on behalf of the citizens of the town of Wilmington. The Board of Selectmen wishes to commend you for the distinguished service you have performed for the past 22 years as town manager. We recognize you for your faithful and devoted service to your profession, to the Board of Selectmen, and to the citizens of Wilmington. Your commitment to the town and the well-being of its residents are most appreciated, and our sincere wishes are extended to you for happy and fulfilling retirement. And,
that concludes the business?
That concludes the business.
I thank you very, very much. I know that I will have something to say Thursday evening, certainly at the retirement party that's being held, and I'm certainly looking forward to that. But I do want to speak just very, very briefly about how grateful I am for having had this extraordinary opportunity to serve a community that I have such affection for, such love for, such reverence for, because it is a community like no other in my mind. You talk to people, and it is something special. And so when I wrote what Judy read, I wrote that many years ago, it really exemplified what I think about this town and about its people, who are so family-oriented, so much community spirit, so much citizenship that they all bring to our community, that you cannot help but succeed. So although I certainly appreciate everything that's being said, I send it right back to the folks that are at this table, to all the folks that served before them, to an unbelievable cadre of volunteers who work so hard for the town for various causes, the wonderful organizations that bring so much vitality to this wonderful town of ours, the businesses, the business community who really is the economic engine for the town of Wilmington, for all of the other town officials, and most especially for the town employees that I've had the incredible opportunity to work with and get to know very well, and to become more than just colleagues, but to become friends. The town hall here and town government in general is a very special family. And I certainly want to salute them and thank them for what they bring every day. It is an incredible work ethic in this community. There are some long hours, there's no question about it, but those long hours, I think, are well worth it when we can accomplish so many things together. The town is going to be in extraordinary good hands with Jeff Hull. There's absolutely no question about that in my mind. The Board of Selectmen, it was their finest decision to vote 5-0. When I was appointed, it was 3-2. So I can tell Jeff, that's pretty good. You got a unanimous vote right out of the chute, and you deserved it after nearly 25 years of outstanding service to the town. And I think it's pretty clear what the townspeople think of you. I can tell them that nobody thinks more of you than I do in terms of your ability to lead. I want to make special mention to the department heads who do yeoman's work here. One of them is in the back, Chief Pagonis, who has become a very special friend of mine, and I certainly appreciate him being here. I see my newest appointee, I'm still making appointees right to the end. I'm not going to be a lame duck, is the new Deputy Fire Chief, Rich McClellan, who begins his service as Deputy Fire Chief today. And congratulations to him. And to all of the other department heads who have just done some tremendous work for the town. Special thanks to my own staff who work in the office every day along with Jeff and I, Paula Barry and Wendy Martinello. And of course, it goes without saying that Beverly Dalton has been the essence of what we do around here. When you call in here on a Saturday to reach me, Beverly's the one that answers the phone. You know, when you call in here at 8 o'clock at night, Beverly is the one that says, I'll get them. So it's absolutely incredible, the work that she performs for the town every day. And if it wasn't for her, I know the success that I've been able to achieve in some small measure would not have happened. So I thank her for everything that she does for the community and that she's done for me. I certainly will want to have time to recognize others at the Thursday night soiree, and it's at that time that I'll make special mention of my wonderful family. I appreciated Judy calling attention to the Kyras and Mike Newhouse introducing them. I was born lucky. What can I tell you? You know, I have a beautiful mother. Was raised the right way. She has just set the example for everyone. I still have a father. Haven't had him with us for 10 years. But he had the good taste to choose my mother, and I certainly appreciate that. Wonderful brothers and sisters. Michelle is here, and I know she's been the rock of the family in so many ways. And my great kids, Jennifer, who surprised me, who came up here a little earlier. I didn't expect that, but that was nice to see how involved she's gotten into the community. My beautiful daughter, Angela, who is in the back, who is the epitome of courage and grace. The most popular Kyra in the family, Brian, who, when I'm walking with him in town and somebody yells, Mr. Kyra, and I turn around, they mean him, not me. My son Michael is in Clinton. Michael has given us two beautiful grandchildren, and Jennifer has given us three, along with her husband Christian, and Michael, his daughter Kristen. And of course, it goes without saying, I appreciate the sentiment that Mike McCoy mentioned when he mentioned my wonderful partner of all these years, who will finally, I think, have an opportunity to cook a meal at the right time of day. But I can tell you, if you're looking for somebody to be an example of what a true life partner is, then you can look no further than my beautiful wife, who I love so much. So she's allowed me to do all this, and I don't mean to get maudlin or anything. The fact that I've had this opportunity is really a direct result of her always saying, do whatever you think is best. And she's the one that gets credit for raising the kids and for establishing that wonderful foundation that is growing now with the grandchildren. So I probably extended the evening a little bit too long. I apologize for that. There's still work to do. We've got to build a school, and I hope to continue to, in some way, to be a part of that. But to my wonderful colleagues on the Board of Selectmen, thank you so much for your sentiments Thank you for the great work you do for the community. It's a labor of love what all of you do. There's no question about that. And as a citizen, I'm very appreciative of that. And so I just want to say it's been a privilege. Thank you.
Mike, I just have one more comment. A lot of the residents just want to know what in tarnation you're going to do now.
I'm going to pick up little Sammy in the morning, and we're going to breakfast.
Beautiful.
Beyond that, I have no plans.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Made and seconded, all in favor? It's unanimous.